Yes, everyone, welcome back to flatcapeurotalk, and this is going to be kind of a short sort of hunch video where I kind of want to make a bit of a prediction ahead of time, kind of like how I did with kind of Kvaratskhelia, Kvaradona, as you could say, and a few other players that have kind of maybe were on my radar before they really got a lot of attention or a lot of limelight. I'm kind of actually going to do that this time, though, with a manager, and it's going to be MATTHIAS JAISSLE, RB Salzburg's manager, who I've actually been quite interested in because he's gotten a few impressive performances that I've been actually able to witness all 90 minutes of. And as well, he seems to, within a year, probably getting a bit of notoriety for being kind of a tough team to beat and being a bit different than maybe other kind of RB sort of kind of teams or Red Bull teams, I mean, in the past. But before we get into it, everybody, before we break down JAISSLE and why he has interested me and maybe why a few Premier League clubs, perhaps a few clubs across Europe should keep an eye on him, let's smash that like button, everybody. But yep, let's get straight into it here, everybody. We're going to talk about the background quickly of JAISSLE, born in West Germany and Nöttingen, a very, very small town, 34 years of age, played actually as a center back over at Hoffenheim, everyone, and actually believe got Hoffenheim promoted from the Zweite Bundesliga, or from the second league, into the first division. And I think from there, Hoffenheim, the story goes on, and they become actually a very sort of kind of well-run club and a very successful club despite being a very small town. His all-time record, despite it being obviously a lot of games in front of you, not actually that many games. He's only really been coaching for a year, I believe at least a full team. So he was at FC Liefering, which I believe is some sort of kind of sister club of RB Salzburg, or at least the Red Bull system. Then goes over to RB Salzburg in that same year of 2021, and he has 76 wins, 14 drawn, and 10 lost. His UCL record right now in the moment, and this is including 2 qualifying games in the Champions League as well. 5 wins, 4 drawn, and 3 defeats. His notable results include a 1-1 draw away to Sevilla, I believe his first kind of like Champions League group stage match. And he had a 1-1 draw to Sevilla, a 1-0 home win actually to Sevilla. So on both occasions, he was able to pick up points to a team like Sevilla, who has a lot of pedigree and a lot of experience in European competitions. Maybe not all the time in the Champions League, but still the Europa League. They know their way around these sort of fixtures. And they were also in kind of a group that was up for grabs, Sevilla, as well as Wolfsburg and Lille. It was and Salzburg, and Salzburg were able to make it out of that group. And if you ask me, as much as I usually have a bit of a better gauge on some of the German teams than others, I didn't have any idea who JAISSLE was. I didn't have any idea who Salzburg were. I probably put them, if I recall, maybe even at the bottom of that group at the time. This is last year's Champions League group, if you can tell what I mean. And they somehow found a way to really prove everybody wrong, and I think they got second in the group. Behind Lille, everyone. So a very good team. In the knockout rounds against Bayern, they were able to draw their first game and actually make Bayern sweat a little bit. And I think even in the following kind of fixture, or the following leg, excuse me, where they went over to Munich, they actually, I think, scored the first goal, made kind of Bayern fans sweat even more, and made it a really interesting game until I believe Leroy Sané and etc. just decided to turn it on and turn on the Jets and absolutely tear them apart. But no shame in that. I mean, they basically played well for 120 minutes of those 2 legs, so really impressive there. That's kind of also what put him on my radar, you could say, as well as that most recent performance against Milan, where he's able to pick up a point there, and then picked up another point against the likes of Chelsea. And who knows, maybe even he could find a way to get actually out of this group. If he, I believe, wins both games against Dinamo Zagreb, that would mean they were on 8 points, which is a pretty good spot to be in after, I believe, what would that be? That'd be 4 games, if I recall. That would be a good spot to be in, and who knows, they could find a way out of that group. But MATTHIAS JAISSLE, as you can tell by some of his results, has been maybe a bit of an impressive manager, and I think what maybe makes him a bit different from sort of other managers of maybe RB Salzburg or RB Leipzig and whatnot is that, I don't know, he seems to be not as naive when it comes to how progressive his teams sort of play. Don't get me wrong, I think his teams play really exciting, fast, progressive kind of football, kind of you could say almost kind of typical with those kind of German, especially Red Bull teams. But he's gone with kind of a bit more of a proactive approach, where seems to be getting these kind of 1-0, sort of 1-1, these sort of very kind of how do you put it? But he seems to have a well-drilled team, and he seems to have a very proactive team and a very progressive team, as well as also being a bit conservative and maybe being a bit practical and realizing that they're not going to be able to dominate the likes of Milan. They're not going to be able to dominate the likes of Chelsea and really just take it to them. And they kind of pick their moments to kind of take them apart. And I think it's been proven to be quite successful. And he hasn't conceded too many goals in the Champions League either, I think, apart from that kind of big Bayern drubbing. But certainly a really interesting manager and has gotten some really interesting performances, or at least results, I should say. But let's go into maybe how his team lines up and how they look, and then we'll kind of finish off there, everybody. But when you look at, sorry, let me go to the second scene here. Yep, when you look at the lineup, he goes with a 4-3-1-2. Most kind of RB Salzburg teams, or at least kind of RB Leipzig teams, have gone with kind of the 4-2-2-2, or the 4-2-2-2 is kind of very kind of typical with them. But he's gone with something a bit different here. He's gone with very hard-working sort of midfielders. He has gone with also as well kind of tall midfielders, if I recall, especially his most recent team. This is the team that's beaten Chelsea. They did have the likes of Kiergaard, who is a very, very talented midfielder, Danish midfielder, also has the same surname as the philosopher as well. Zeiwald, I think, is a very talented kind of a Austrian international in there, good kind of playmaker, good deep line playmaker by the looks of things as well. They have Nicolas Capaldo, Argentinian international. I like the look of him. Luka Sucic, Croatian international. But all these guys have actually, funny enough, replaced some of the people who you see at the bottom of the screen there. Brendan Aronson, who's now over at Leeds. Luka Sucic has replaced. Adeyemi has been replaced by Benjamin Šeško. They're able to rotate these guys in, and it's really impressive, I think, and it just shows that MATTHIAS JAISSLE was able to get a result against Chelsea, get that 1-1 draw, as well as that 1-1 draw against the likes of Milan as well with this team right here. But against the likes of Bayern and Sevilla and whatnot, he had, I believe it was Aronson instead. He had Aronson coming in here. He had Adeyemi coming in instead of the likes of Šeško. Instead of Dedic, we had Christensen. And what I think I also liked is that JAISSLE had very good defensive fullbacks that know how to make a tackle and can also win a tackle high up the pitch. I believe instead of Pavlovic and Bernardo, former player of Brighton, he went with Verber, and he went with, I believe it was Sole, very talented player in Sole, and then Kamara came in here, I believe, instead of Kiergaard, and I believe he's headed over to Monaco. So there's been a lot of turnover even in this team, and somehow he's found a lot of success with it still, JAISSLE. So a manager I've been very impressed with, everybody. Someone I think you should keep an eye on, especially if you're kind of your club or somebody that you're maybe getting a bit frustrated with, perhaps manager-wise, or maybe even you're thinking of a club that you probably think needs a managerial change. I think MATTHIAS JAISSLE is certainly someone to keep an eye on, maybe for next season, or maybe even in the January window when kind of teams are looking to change things around and need a manager in through the door. Excuse me, I think he'd be an excellent candidate. So everybody, MATTHIAS JAISSLE, do remember the name. Somebody that I've been keeping an eye on, someone who has impressed me in the Champions League so far. But that'll be all for now, everybody. Do smash that like button on your way out. Do leave your comments for any other kind of sort of maybe manager kind of watchers I should keep an eye on, or any other videos that you'd like to maybe see put up on the channel. I promise to be a bit more consistent, everybody. But we'll keep going from here, and do promise that you stick with me. But I'll be seeing you. Really do appreciate you guys tuning in. Bye for now.